It's 7:08. Frank, would you like to introduce our speaker? And
Sure.
by the time you get done with that, it'll be 10 past and good time to start.
Okay, everybody out there, some of whom are members, some of who are rumored members. We have a little snafu right now with who's a paid member and who's not, and it's our fault as a club. So as they say, wars and rumors of wars, we have members and rumors of members, and then we have some that aren't members that are visitors, and we want to welcome everybody. Everybody's sort of dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic in ham radio in different ways. Our repeaters are being used more. A lot of clubs, not just in the United States, but Europe, the United Kingdom, are doing all kinds of programs. So I think it's making really good lemonade out of lemons in some ways, and I think we'll find ways to use this technology better. Tonight, we have one of our neighbors who puts up with me harassing him when he does come to CMSARA meeting, and that's only a sign that being the son of a Marine Corps drill instructor, I don't, if I don't like you, I don't tease you. If I haven't teased you, hey, you might not be on my short list, but if I tease you, it's because I really like him, a good friend. So Eddie is somebody that I have tremendous respect for. And I know you're recording this, JD, so this will go down, Eddie, in posterity.
In history.
Public, I like you. Eddie is a very knowledgeable amateur radio operator. He has done various things in his amateur career. He has also worked with the Corps of Engineers and continues to do so as a contract employee, as I understand it. And he's very, very knowledgeable about a lot of things that rotate around amateur radio that we may not think is amateur radio per se. But we're delighted to have Eddie Pettis. And Eddie, you're licensed, aren't you? You got a call sign?
Yeah. I would hope so.
And he's doing a lot with satellites and Earth, Moon, Earth stuff, and maybe we'll corral him into a program on that in the future. But he and Carolyn Irons have been, as Dizzy Dean would have said, tearing up the pea patch with digital modes, particularly FTA, as many of us have. So tonight, Eddie's going to lead a discussion and I believe presentation of actual FTA contacts for us tonight. And we want to welcome Eddie Pettis and just thank you so much for giving your time and your preparation. So I'll turn it back over to you, JD.
All right. Well, Eddie, I mean, if you're sharing your screen, if you'd like to begin, please do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. And Frank's given a bunch of lies and a bunch of things. He'll be in purgatory for some period of time. Like Frank said, I've lived radio all my life. And I started out when I was about 13 or 14 years old. And I was playing with everything you could imagine. Shortwave listening was a hobby at the time. I grew up to the point where I was able to be employed, and that's when I started getting into radio communications itself. I went to college, got a degree in electronic technology. From that point on, I was into radios, satellite communications. I did it as a job, as a hobby. I became licensed somewhere in like 1986, 85, 86 range. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but 85, 86. And I ended up getting to my extra class license and had a general marine radio telephone license. It was an advantage to me to attain that for employment reasons. And I found that during my employment period, back in the early 2000s, ham radio being on my resume got me the job. Why? Because the Corps of Engineers and the government have extensive HF networks. And they were looking for people that knew the language and how to do what they needed to do and how to operate equipment. And it is a tremendous amount of fun to operate a multi-kilowatt station that has a log periodic. It runs about 200K, of cost that's rotatable that you can play with in your office. So that was one of the fun things that I had to do as far as my employment. But enough about me. Let's talk about FT8, FT4, and other modes of digital. And at any point in time, somebody has some questions, I'll kind of stop there and ask you, do you have one? And we'll just move forward after that instead of saving them all for the end.
They can also type their questions into the chat, and I can voice those for them if need be.
Okay, that'll work. First thing we need to do is kind of, there's multi-parts to do an FT8. One is you have a radio, you have a sound card type device. Some computers have them already built in, some other radios have them built in, and sometimes you have to have an external one. But the first thing we're going to talk about, I find, is to talk about logging programs. For example, I use N3FJP. And if you look here, I've got an icon right here, amateur call log. There's a process for doing this, is that you crank up your log first, you log up, you crank up another piece of software called WSJT-X, and then you log, start up your JT alert, which is a component or an accessory to WSJT-X. First thing I want to bring up was my current log, current dates, and I'll get into some of this here in a minute once we start getting through with the FT8 portion of it. But anyway, once this is open, WSJT-X, it's a soft piece of software that was, and JD, can I hide? Yeah, there it is. I'm moving up, okay. What, okay. What WSJT-X is a program that was created by K1JT, and I've actually worked him on the air on FT8, and I know a lot of other people have too. He finds it to be fun. WSJT-X is a digital piece of software that listens to the radio's sound card and decodes the information that's being received and can be transmitted. As you see on the screen, you see it's constantly changing here. And what it does is its decoding method so that you see what the call signs are and the different features. For example, it says CQ in green, and you can take and do CQ only, where you don't see anything but people trying to talk to other people. I prefer to have it the other way unless it's extremely busy. But the software uses a sound card, and you configure this by hitting File, Settings, and you have multiple things here that you do. Like, for example, general setup, like putting in your call sign, your grid square, and setting different options within the configuration. The next one, small step, would be about the radio. I'm using FT DX1200. There's a long list of different radios that are available to use. If it's not there, then sometimes you just kind of have to wing it and figure out what works. In this case, you have COM ports, cat control COM ports for audio and for transmit functions. In this case, this serial port is for the cat control, basic baud rates. Sometimes you go higher, you can go lower, but typical settings you'll find on the internet for different radios and what works for them. I'm not going to get into the COM port part of it. I'm not an IT person, and I absolutely hate computers, but they work for me, so I'll keep them in the house. But each COM port setting, one's for audio, one's for control of the rig and the push-to-talk function. In this case, COM8 works for me, and these are all set as default. Cat control for push-to-talk. It is data packet information. This one's a fake it. You know, I click none. Split operation, I can do FT8, those kinds of things. Typically, you don't do split operation. It's usually just straight same frequency of transmit and receive. Test cat, push to talk. I mean, there's lots of different ways of doing things. I mean, you can hit push to talk, either transmit, and then be transmit. Okay, the next function is audio. This is when you get into microphone speaker type audio. What I have had in my past, most of the time you're using USB audio and codec functions. And you can play with these one for input, one for output. You can play with them. You can find a combination that'll work. There's nothing special about it. But typically, USB audio codec will work for most applications. TX macros, you can set up different things. I've not gotten into that, so I'm not even going to speak about it. Reporting, there's certain things that you have to do as far as setting up your reporting for spots, for field day logging using a server, or even your computer acting as a server, you know, for different functions. And Frank, did you send everybody that was online the Brian Blackledge
I have it.
configuration?
Well, we did send it out, but I also have it on our website regarding this this meeting at centralmsham.club. So people can go there and download it.
And I believe Jim Martin may have also emailed that to the list he has. But Eddie, yes, we have that out. And we really, I know Brian's listed here. We want to thank Brian for pulling that together. That is one of the better documents on FT8 and using what Eddie's going to talk about, JT Alert, that I've seen.
Right.
I have to agree.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was impressed with it. He spent a lot of time on it. We've had a lot of discussions about it. It was mainly him telling me about it and me not contributing, because like I said, I'm not a computer geek. I would be totally lost. If it wasn't in a book like that, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I know I spent many hours when I first got my sound card, my sound interface. I bought an MFJ. It worked fine on an ICOM 7200, I think it was, 7700, 72. It was a VHF and HF rig. Worked beautiful. When you start getting to a Yaesu, they require an adapter to go on their radio in order for it to work and go straight to the computer. So everything's built into the Yaesu equipment. And this new ICOM's 7900 has it all built into it also. So a lot of times you don't have to have those things to get away from some of the computer issues. So yes, I do thank Brian for doing what he has done. Anyway, getting back to our discussion. And I don't mind if somebody has a question and I need to do a one-on-one with them at some point in time. My email address, you could email me and I'll be glad to call you, discuss it with you, and try to help you walk through stuff. So JD, my email address is eddie.pettis@gmail.com. If you have it, you can publicize that for anybody that needs to have it.
All right.
As long as it's not a computer issue, that's fine. I can help you walk through some of the other things. If nothing else, it's like Ronnie Irons and I, AC5UL, he's walked me through a ton of things. He's really the expert on the background and all this. But so he's been helpful to me also. Frequencies. This thing has a list of frequencies for all of the FT8, FT4, JT65, different modes of operation. And when you get started, you can put memories in your rigs. You just push a button and go right to them. And you're able to get what you need. It goes all the way from DC to light, basically up 24 gig. So you can pick and choose, like one we're using right now is we're going to be using 40 meters, 40 meters. Let me find it. 7.074 under FT8. Okay. Colors, it's all how you set things up. What do you want things to show up? You know, different zones, different continents. All this, it's all in the details here, how you just want to set it up. It's an intuitive thing that you just go do it. Here's an interesting part of the software is that you can set this thing up for a special event operation like field day. And when you do that, you would select that special event and you would have whatever you exchange in 1 Delta, Mississippi. You could do it for RTTY roundup, which if they have an RTTY contest of some kind, then it falls under a digital mode. So you can participate as an FT8 person or FT4 person in an RTTY contest. You just pick out which one of these you want to do and whatever the exchanges are, and you're done. Now we'll uncheck this. All right, we'll close this part. Now, that deals with the configurations. You've got different things, for example, the mode, FT4, FT8, JT4, JT9, and so on down the line. Move bounce stuff. Tools. I got to read the manual on some of those. Those are some things I haven't really got into. There's so much. It's like this manual here for an IC 9700. It is more than you'll ever be able to do. I use it for simple things. I'm trying to be simple tonight to get you where you're not intimidated to get online. First things first, you have an area down here where you can send CQ. And when you click on something, for example, you click on one of these, and when you do, the TX enabled comes on. The information of that particular station comes up, and all the exchanges, which runs in an automated, I use the auto sequencing, and all the automated part of it all pops up here. So it is able to sequence through a contact. I guess the first thing we need to do is find one of these guys here and just click on it and see who answers. Let's just pick one. Let's wait till this. There has a sequencing period. It's roughly 15 seconds, and first of all, the clock has to be accurate. I'll discuss that more, but has a 15-second sequence. It's sending us information. Now, if you can hear that noise in the background, that's the data of somebody sending signals. It started back over again. And of course, when you're transmitting, you don't hear that. The next thing we're going to do is find one as soon as it does its thing. Okay, let's just go KN4. Notice this area right here. And I am transmitting. You have transmit, and this is the station it's trying to talk to. This is the sequencing information. You notice it popped up to number 1. I didn't have to send CQ. I was answering somebody. And what you'll see is it goes through different things. And I'll discuss this here in just a second, and this button right here. Let's see if they answer. Okay, he answered it. I've got it where it turns red. It shows that this is the station talking to me. This is the signal report that they're giving me. This is the signal report that I'm receiving them at. Notice it jumped down here. Now, I'm going to send them a signal. I just sent him a signal. He's returning back. He said, here's a signal, receive 73. Over here, you have the actual contact information, signal reports sent, received, the grid square that they're at. I want to confirm that. I hit OK, and it will log it eventually. I forgot to pull up a piece of information here. So I'm going to manually log this one in, and we'll do another one. Stand by just a second. I used to do all this manually, and it just turned into, I don't want to do that anymore. and it's in the 40 meter. Mode is FT8. Time. And sent was 8. I want to give this guy the benefit of working me. I would want somebody to do that to me. And, okay. Let's stop here. I'm going to clear the screen here. There's another
There was
piece
a
of the
question.
software.
There was a
Go ahead.
question about the retain boxes on one of the last screens.
We'll do another
If you wanna-
contact, maybe.
All right.
What is that one? What is retain box?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't understand the question.
Hey, Eddie, it's Frank. On that, when you logged your contact, you had the TX power, and I think there's another one, and it had an option to retain that. And that may be something you're going to get to when you look at automating your log from WSJT. So if so, just forget it and say, I'll get to it later. That was just a minor question.
I'll get to it later.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah. What I just opened up here is another piece of, let's say, a software that's really essential. It works with JT Alert, works with WSJT-X. If you notice, these call signs popped up. They're in different colors for a reason. I'll go over that too. But all these call signs popped up. The ones in green are calling CQ. Okay. The others may be talking to somebody like this one's in yellow and red. That is a country that I need. And it's marked that way. If it's in yellow for me, it's preferences that you set up within this software up here in the settings. But if you need a particular country, and like this one I've worked before, I've got it set up so it's kind of intuitive, where you can look at it and say, okay, take with those guys, I'll work on somebody else. And all those colors pop up over here also as they come through. Okay. This is JT Alert. It works with the WSJT-X. It takes the information that's coming across here, interrogates it, it puts it over here for your preferences. And if you had one over here that you needed, you could actually click over here and it would transmit and go through the sequencing. Like right here, you look at this. K8YV is W9HPV is talking to K8YV. Like here too, he's calling CQ. So you can tell their grid squares, how far away they are, beam heading, the whole bit. If you're using QRZ as your QSL service, I mean your logbook service, you can interface all this together to make it where it's much simpler. And I will show you how simple that is here in just a second. AB9HLA, I am trying to talk to him. He's got a signal dB of 2.5 is the timing difference between my computer. This is the frequency in hertz. He's right there with a transmits red, green is received. He's right up in that pile up, and that's probably him sending signal there. He's going to answer me, which he did. Another station is trying to call, but if you'll look right here, WB9HLA is going through the sequence. He's giving me the signal report. And what's going to happen here is that once he sends again, it's going to sequence through. You're going to see two pop-ups come up. One, the first one that we did the last time, and another one to log to my contest program. Okay, right here's the signal report. Click OK. And this one is to log it into my N3 FJP log. There it is, right there. It's logged, and it's also been sent to Loader. It's set up where it automatically sends it. Now, this other guy was trying to, oh, he's just sending CQ. Okay, so that's kind of the way the sequencing works. Any questions so far on that, JD?
No,
Okay.
well, I have a question. So when you go through that sequence, you don't have to keep clicking transmit. It does it automatically once it receives the information it wants.
Fully automatic. I'm not
Wow.
touching anything except my mouse.
Okay, that's cool.
Nothing at all. Now, if you want to do something, of course, logging wise, computer wise, you can do that. But I've got it set up in full sequence. You'll notice one little check mark out there's call first. When you set it up for call first, if you have multiple stations trying to talk to you, and you send CQ and a bunch of them pop up, call first is the one at the lower frequency in hertz than the others. And as you do one of them, he goes away and you click on another one or whatever in order to be able to talk to the other stations. A lot of them get impatient, go away, and they'll come back in a little while. As they see that I'm sending CQ or something else, or I'm not talking to anybody else, they'll try to call me again. This call sequence, this call first, are miracle things. Now, there are other preferences like transmit even first or hold the transmit frequency. You know, those are things that you can play with and see what you like. I was taught by Ronnie the other day, sometimes you'll have where these are split. One's, let's say, one frequency here and one's here. You want to make them the same. If you want this one to be the transmit, you click here and it makes it here. Or you want to reverse it, come back the other way, you click it there. I've been going over here and punching in the frequency and doing it that way. You know, I saw him do that, and it's like, well, thank you very much. You just taught me and saved me a lot of trouble. You know, who has time to read all the books and all the data behind it? I don't. Some people do, but I don't. Now, let's talk a little bit about time. Timing is very, very important. Notice WV9HLA is 0.5. His frequencies need to be as close to 0.0 as possible. Notice this guy right here. He and I are matched on frequency. 0.1 is not, is typical, is very workable. But if you start seeing somebody up there in 0.8, 0.9 to 1.5, 2.0, they're not going to talk to anybody. The sequencing would be off, and the way this thing works. For example, you notice all these were at 35, 45. Okay, here in just a second, it's going to change. Next group pops down. All the zeros. So it's 15 second sequencing to go through a cycle of receive and then a 15-second cycle to transmit in order to get through the first part of the sequencing. Now, there are people out there that go through and say, okay, I got a signal report from him up here. I'm going to click on down and grab something else and hit RR73. If they've got the exchange, they know I have the exchange, you can do that and save time. As long as we are both satisfied with the contact, then we are satisfied that it's going to be in load up, then you can go ahead and say 73 and you're done. Go on to the next guy. Now, a couple more things. Frequency control. I have mine set up with VFOs, and if I hit another one, it automatically moves my rig when I change to different bands. So that's an added feature that every ham ought to have, because it makes the world of ease. And when you're doing contesting or field day of any kind or anything like that, you're looking for that station you just can't find, and you see him pop up, being able to move from place to place very easily. The last contact that we had, was 29 degrees, 644 miles, and that was his grid square. This data is collected from the software that I use, which is QRZ, and I stay online with it, like I do Logbook of the World. I stay online all the time, and I sit here, and it makes all that magic happen for me. If you get into a deal where you're trying to reach somebody and you just get tired, you just hit Alt TX and it stops. There's all kinds of different things you can do to your menus, Personally, I like to have things set up certain ways. I like to make things taller where I can use them. As you see, I have all 4 of these on one monitor, and that's really the discussion of this part of it. We'll go back if we need to. Up here under JT Alerts, we have alert settings that you can get into, and once again, this is so much that you just can't consume it all. Settings, wanted U.S. states. This is a very useful one. Takes a second to crank up. 40 meters. You can pick and choose which one you want to do. We'll go 160 just so everybody is fresh here. 160 meters. The ones in yellow checked are the ones that I need for FT8 on 160. And you can move right on down the line. You can choose a different mode, for example, Ft4. And of course, I need them all. So that will be something that I get to play with in the future. The way that I do mine is that in the call book itself, it has the awards portion of it. And let's say 160, while that's running, it tends to aggravate you. 160, FT8, click calculate, and these are the states that are needed. Continents, the zones, and so on. Countries that I've worked on 160 on FT8. The countries portion of it, in the logging, I think the contest, the AC log will do that for you. But as far as making sure that the states portion of it, and you're trying to use FTA, if Logbook of the World has confirmed them, then this piece of software will allow them to be put over here into worked, and these will be in the worked area. And that's what I watch for. I try to make sure my Logbook of the World matches what my contest program or my logging program is doing. One thing that I have found that when I do load and upload and download, I try to make sure by looking that all these things up here and down here match. I don't want to get overloaded where I've got to go back and look at my different contacts up here to know that it's in my logging program. So it's actually personal preferences, whatever you want to do on the logging program. Like, for example, we were working 40 meters, FTA. I worked all states via FTA on that one. The FT4, on the other hand, is right here. And that's kind of where we stand. I think three states there. Now, I want to go back and I want to show you the Ft4 mode. As you've been hearing, you hear, let's say, slower streams, and you see slower actions here in the logging and the motion of the data. And what we're going to do, we're going to go to Ft4 on 40 meters. If you'll hear this data, it seems to be a little bit higher pitched and moving a little bit faster. And what you have to do when you change modes on WSJT-X, you have to go to F4. I'm going to clear my screen. Hit erase twice, it clears. Erase once clears this side, twice clears both sides. And these are the stations that are actually coming through on FT4 on 7.047.5. Now, right on that same frequency, you have W1AW sending CW all the time. You notice how it kind of got a little bit darker on this side? versus the rest of these sides. Another way to look at it would be to change the color, and you see some colorization differences darker here. They're either not on the air or my filters are working very well. When it comes through, you can hear the little bit of clicks in the background, but you don't hear that 1,000 hertz tone right here. I'm using some very good filtering, notch filters, contour filters to get rid of that. And as long as you don't get rid of it above about 1,200 hertz right here, you're not going to really affect anything. The Europeans tend to stay down here below 1,000 hertz. The DX foreign stations, they like to stay down here in this lower frequency. It'll go way down. And these are all settings that are adjustable and pick and choose. You know, how fast do you want this to scroll? What color do you want? Banana works good in weak signal because you can see a lot of weak stuff kind of in the background of the colorization, whereas if you have a dark background, you don't tend to see that. Something about the waterfall, these are stations on this frequency, 1350 to about 1400 here. And this is the data stream. This is one person that's transmitted, and they're transmitting now. And the other would be the receive station that would come through. So he must be sending CQ. When you see it like this, here and here, here and here, somebody's talking back and forth between. Now, I have moved a few things, and I'm going to change my screen a little bit where I like it. Notice you get up to 28, up to 3,000 hertz. What you have is a carrier, in this case 7.047.5 megahertz, with an audio riding on that carrier. And that audio is present right here as you see it. You have like a spectrum analyzer, you can look at that, you can look at the background, and you can work stations that are completely background noise, and they'll come through it. You won't hardly even see them, if see anything here. I worked Alaska on 160 in March, I think it was, maybe before that, February, and I thought I'd never get them. And I was just sending CQ. Nobody was on the air. I was sending CQ, and all of a sudden it came back. So don't be fooled that, well, there's nothing right here. There's nobody on the air. That's a bunch of junk. 6 meters is a good indication of that also. This is kind of like CW, in that you can get through it and nothing else will. So this is the new CW. Even Malcolm, we had started to give in that hey, this is a pretty good thing to have, and he's working the heck out of it. So, you know, he may be disenfranchised from some of his CW buddies that are diehards, but it's a new mode. Even ARRL's QST magazine has spoken many times that it is a new mode, and everybody's learning from it and enjoying it. Anyway, that's what we've got on this side. I wanted to show you the waterfall and how that kind of works. Digipan, palette, these adjustments. You can read within the WSJT-X how you really want to set it up. But usually the basic settings that it comes in when you download it, then it's available to start working it immediately. Okay. Other settings over here, back to JT alerts. You can set it up for what you want it to be. One of the U.S. states, provinces, DXCC, one of the continents, CQ zones, bunches of different things. Settings over here, same thing, but you have an area here for manage settings. And this is where it gets deep. You have a whole tree of things that you can do. Pick and choose. What do you like? What do you want to enable? You know, wanted prefixes, wanted U.S. states, the bands, V provinces. These are the setup things, like for load up. Logging, that's a very important one right here. You have a place for AC log. Click on that, In this case, we use local PC. This is what the data file, local PC configuration, where the data file is currently on my computer with a log file port of 1100. And I believe that is, I think it comes that way. Once again, if you have a problem with some of these things, if you can call me, email me, I'll try to give you some configuration information off of my machine right here to be able to help you. Enable AC log logging. That's what I use. There's others with HRD. Different applications. Windows configurations for macros, text messaging. Oh, this JT Alert has text messaging capability. Carolyn, if you're close to your rig, would you send me a text message via JT Alert? While we're waiting on that, if she's able to do that. What comes in handy there is that if you're trying to reach a station and you can send a message, if they also have that JT Alert in the messaging part of it, like an Alaska station that you have a call sign for, you can send them a message, say, hey, you on the air? You know, can you meet me on 160? You know, I need you on 80 meters right now. Would you please come here? And there's a function, it's F5. This guy's offline. It's one we worked a little while ago. Let's see if we can maybe send her one. H5RC. She's offline. Okay, but what you would do is put your text message up here and hit send, and they would get the message if they're online. And clear, back it up. It's an F5 as a function. There's a whole bunch of different shortcuts, whether it be in the AC logs, whether it be in JT Alert. I haven't found any shortcuts on the WSJT-X. But different things, different views, how you want to look at things. One thing I like about the awards, what was it? View. During field day. Okay, during field day, you could pull it up and look at it by the country in different colors of where your progression was, just like you can do on some of the simpler logs. So I'm not trying to sell you on this product, but I know that it works well. There's a lot of people that do it. It interfaces with WSJT-X and JT Alert very well. It's simple, quick, easy. Why do anything else? Okay, here you go. Message from Brian. Brian Blackledge, this is a text message. And what I can do is get can you spell either? As I look at my computer, oh, no wonder. Come on. And hit send. It's short text messaging. So that's basically it. One more function up here, and it's just behind the computer things in a way. Right here, there's an area. Now, I used to know what this all meant, but basically what you have in blue are all the FT8 stations by bands that are currently, worldwide, currently on the air. Okay? FT4 the same way, JT9 and JT65, based on band and based on the number of stations that are there. So that comes in helpful when you start to look. Like 6 meters has got a pretty good many around the world, 131 transmitting, and then you got like 40 meters wide open. And I assume that 40 meters is anything on 40 meters. So not set up by different frequencies or modes, but it is split up by colors, FT4 and FT8. So let me try a couple more things here, then we'll get into some questions. I'm gonna put this thing back into FT8 mode. I'm gonna change my radio to a different mode, and I'm going to call CQ. See what happens here. In fact, what I'm going to do is stop the CQ. I'm going to move my frequency where it's not so congested. Go down here to about, see how easy that was to move it. Now I'm going to go CQ. See what happens, who's there. Maybe we'll get a foreign station in here. Just let you watch the exchanges, how it actually works and what happens with it. Sometimes you'll sit here, and the transmit function has a watchdog timer in it. I set mine for a certain few minutes to sit there and send transmit the whole time, and it will actually time out. Nobody's ever answered. It just happens. If I don't need a station and he's calling CQ, then you know why talk to him. And same way with most things where you start talking CW and everything else. Brit. It's just neg 24. Timing is good. Neg 24, he's right down the noise level. 1298. He is right there. Not here, but right there. Or this little stream right here may be him. And if you go over here and hit banana, actually take but just a little bit. It stopped because it's transmitting. I'm going to tell you what, let's just try to call him. And I like the color one. Typically, the color one means it's a little bit of a stronger signal, but it's just a reference. It's not a specific color based upon the absolute. That's, you know, difference between 10 watts and a megawatt. Of course, there's differences, but not extreme differences. I like it where it's just barely red. Just my personal preference. We're still trying to call him, but he was at a very, very low signal. It's probably not going to hear him. I'm trying to do this one more time, and then we're going to move on. A Barbados station up there, I've talked to him before. I'd like to do it again. He was talking to somebody else right there. He's at neg 19. He was sending a report of neg 13. Okay, we're going to halt that because he's not answering. And what I'm going to do is wait on that Barbados station to pop up again, and I'm going to try to call it. I'm not running a lot of wattage here. I typically run 100 watts, but there are times when I lower my power down and I don't see him up there. I lower my power down to keep from interfering with people. If I'm just sitting here just doing casual calling to somebody I've already got, I just use the minimum amount of power. I'm trying to get a foreign country somewhere, you know, like anybody that has a brain in their head, they'll try to use as much as they can to get him for a contact. I have never been a QRP person. Not saying it's not fun. I know there's other people that have. Well, while we're waiting here, any questions? Anything you want me to show you? Are you totally confused?
I think you've been pretty thorough.
try. See if I can.
There's always the inevitable configuration between someone's radio and connecting it to your computer.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
It's an art form, that's for sure. And it's
somebody
different
had
for
a lot of
everyone's
patience.
rig versus computer.
You see how these kind of have shadows right here? I try to make them like that where I can see, and these actually bring up background. You see, you can see pieces and parts of the data. Kind of do that so I can watch for things like, you know, what are these little tidbits here? What is this? Maybe there's something there. We know there's something here. Maybe there's something there. I'm learning because I'm wanting to get into moon mounts. A long time ago, probably 15 years ago, when I had my other house, I had a station set up where Malcolm and I were working on trying to do moon mounts, but we were almost successful. Malcolm was sending CW, and I was trying to position everything. The guy finally got W5, and you know, next thing you know, he reported back XX, but he couldn't put the two together. He thought there was another letter in there. So we didn't make the contact. The guy was up in Indiana. We were using a 100-watt CW rig on 2 meters with a single element VHF cross-polarized, 22 element beam running 160 watts. And I know it's possible to do it. I've read too many articles and seen things in QST and different things. In fact, this month, in some of the reports that they had of DX and different band openings, there was a guy that ran like 150 watts single using JT-65, I think it was. And he works on a station somewhere here in the States, about moon mounts. And that's one reason I bought the rig that I've got. My antennas, I've got ASL antennas, like y'all have probably seen some of the field day operations. We had that running satellite contact, and you have to get things tuned in. You have to be able to ensure that the ASL settings that you're looking at on a dial there match what the moon is and those kinds of things. Once you get dialed in, you should be able to make contacts like what you're seeing here, except very, very weak signals. We're talking about signals that are like this at the best for a small station. So that's what I'm going to start off with, is a small station with two stacked VHF antennas run 160 watts, but doing JT-65. And this
you played with Whisper at all?
Here, I have not. This software right here, WSJT-X, is designed for low signal type operations, QRP situations. You can't send messages back and forth. You can send an exchange. In this case, you're using grid squares and signal reports, but you can't send a long message. I think it only has like, so many bits of information that you can send. And usually it's 2 call signs, a grid square, and maybe 4 or 5 more characters, and that's it. So 3 different pieces. Brian, JD, you've got my email. Anybody that wants to contact me, you can. Any questions about anything, you can. If you get it yourself in a tight, and if I need to run over one day and kind of help you out, I'd be willing to even do that, get you on the air. Am I going to fix everything for you? Probably not. But I'm willing to get you started, okay? It's a learning process that all of us go through in ham radio, whether it be learning CW or learn to speak on the radio or learn digital things like this one. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to the club. And I know that Carolyn would love to have been 2 of us over at the CMSARA meeting and have an actual center where people could touch and feel and stay for 3 hours and discuss it. Anyway, turn it back over to you, JD.
Well, Eddie, I think I can speak for everyone. I say thank you very much. We're very appreciative of your time tonight and your offer of future help. This is fascinating. I've been using the ham radio deluxe, but I've had hit or miss with it, so I'd like to give this a try now.
Right. You'll notice one more thing before it goes away. Let it come back. There's a station, I think it was Barbados. He was running a timing of 1.2 seconds. That's a little long. Another thing you might want to do on your computer, there it is right there, neg 24 and 1.2 seconds. This contact will probably never happen with that kind of signal. But anyway, one thing to keep in mind when you deal with digital communications, you need to make sure that your clock is as accurate as you can get it. And there's a link up here called Atomic. Let me open it up. See it. Atomic Clock Sync. And this is just a piece of software you download it, and I've got it where it synchronizes every few minutes. Set it up for whatever time zones, and it works very well. It stays very stable for me. So I just want to pass that on.
Syncs your computer's time to the atomic clock?
That's
pretty nice.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different applications out there. Some of them you have to pay for. That's a freebie, and it's been working.
Eddie, I had the privilege of meeting Joe Taylor over in Atlanta, and this had just sort of come out, and this has been a few years ago. And he said, other than communicating with your PC, that problem right there was the single most frequently occurring problem that people had getting it to work. So everybody, what Eddie's telling you is gold. And I personally use that Atomic little app on Windows. And it's just incredibly important for this and all the related things. Eddie, I want to just thank you for taking the time. I've got to leave for Kansas in the morning to a family wedding about 4. So I'm going to say 73 tonight at this time. And y'all hang around as long as you want to. But I just wanted to tell you thank you. And we appreciate so much you and Carolyn taking the time. And when you bounce it off the moon, we want to have you back over when we're meeting in person and you to regale us with those efforts. Because anybody who's watched Big Bang Theory knows that was part of one of the episodes of actually doing that. So we want you to come back and play Sheldon to Carolyn's Penny, if you will. So I'll say 7-3, Eddie.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You get to carry the shotgun to the wedding. 7-3 to you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Eddie.
Sir.
On the power slider on the WSJT.
Right here?
If I don't pay attention to that, my ALC will go wild.
I hadn't had that problem. I don't use that function. I use the front of my radio to control it. I don't think that I've got it set up on my radio configuration settings up here. File, settings. I don't believe I have a control capability of that.
Well, what I do is I just got the radio set for 100 watts and I control the output with that. And usually it works best at about 65 to 72 watts.
Right. Then your ALC starts creeping up and going out.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as
but
I
I'll tell you right.
As long as I stay in that range, it does pretty good.
Okay. That goes to tell you it's probably a linear function. Is that the lower the wattage, then the lower the wattage, the lower the ALC is going to be. As you increase your wattage, your ALC is going to creep up. You're probably manually going to have to adjust that on your rig itself.
Well, I don't use
that slider.
Yeah, I use the slider. It's easier. And then when you change frequencies, a lot of times that changes too. So you have to slide up.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's just one I haven't played with, Jerry. If you can figure it out, teach me something about it.
Yeah, all right.
By the way, guys, Jerry's been on the air a lot on FT8. I've seen him on the air. I've seen him. I've actually contacted him on the air. Same way with W5XX and KJ5RC. You know, different bands. It's inevitable that you need Mississippi on one of your bands somewhere down the line. And it's something like saying, hey, pick up the phone. Hey, go work me on Ft4 on whatever band. I need it. Or they'll see them. You'll see them working somewhere else, and you'll grab a hold of them and say, okay, I've worked you now. You know, naturally you get a good signal report because you're right here. But it's kind of interesting, some of the people you meet and some ones you have. One example is an ex-deceased silent key ham from many, many years ago. KJ, WJ5L. And he was very active here in Vicksburg, had his own repeater, the whole bit. And I ran into his call sign. He's in Texas now. He took his call sign when he passed and was able to work him. I felt like I was working an old friend when that happened. So you never know what you're going to run into. Anyway, that's enough for me, JD. I'm going to shut up now.
Oh, you can keep talking. If we do we have any more questions or comments? Well, I think that's it. Again, thank you very much for this. It's been a fascinating talk, and I look forward to giving this a try.
And I look forward to seeing some meetings here in the future at CMSARA. I probably am one of those people that owe you some money. And just don't worry, I'll pay you for this year, and we'll get you next year too. We have to, but you know, we've
got to get all that sorted out. So,
club members, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, well, as far as we are too. All right, well, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, Eddie and Carolyn, for all your help. So I will see y'all next month.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, y'all have a good night.
Thanks, JD.
Bye.